Hi friends! Welcome back to my channel. This is Astro Tarot, and in today's reading, we are going to be looking at messages from your higher self. So I'm really excited for this reading because it's going to be a short one, but we're actually going to be channeling messages from your higher self while looking at your shadow self, your conscious slash awake day-to-day self, and then your higher self. And we're going to be seeing what's coming through, what are the similarities and differences between those three parts of you, and we're going to be finishing off with some advice. So there are three piles to choose from today. For pile one, we have this beautiful piece of howlite. For pile two, we have hematite. And for pile three, we have green aventurine. So please pick whichever pile you feel the most drawn to. It's totally fine if you feel drawn to more than one. Just make sure that when you're watching the reading, you are using your discernment to make sure that you're being intentional about which messages you take as your own, if that makes sense. So you can pause the video, take however much time you need to pick your pile. There will be timestamps listed down in the description box so that you can just click and get straight to your pile. And once you do that, I will see you in your reading. Bye! Hi there, pile one. If you chose this piece of howlite, then this is going to be your reading. I'm just going to plop this right here, and we're going to get right in. So first of all, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to get into this. I'm really excited for this topic and for the clarity and information that you'll gain from it. So we have the Oracle and Tarot card shuffle today, pre-shuffled, and then later on we're going to get a card for advice. So let's just start off by looking at your shadow self. So you have the Slave. The light attributes are surrendering your power of choice to the divine with complete trust. The shadow is giving your willpower to an external authority out of fear of making your own choices. We also have the Advocate, inspires you to put compassion into action, embracing negative causes or committing to causes for personal gain. And then we have the Nine of Pentacles and the Queen of Wands. Holy shit. Okay, this is really interesting because it's so different, almost like the energies. It's almost like you have, it's like I feel like your shadow self is like you, maybe when you were younger, you had to, you were constantly in fight or flight mode, and you had to go between you had to really learn how to stand up for yourself and be assertive, because I feel like maybe you, I honestly don't know if your caregivers, your parents, grandparents, whoever took care of you, I'm not sure if they were really very, if they really, what is the word, stood up for you and helped you when it comes to setting boundaries. I wonder if they kind of took advantage of you when you were a kid and asked you to do a lot more than you should have done when you were really young. And I think that you had to learn how to be your own advocate, how to stand up for yourself. But I wonder if you had a hard time doing that though. Because what I'm sensing is that you could have adopted a lot of really toxic patterns out of an attempt to defend yourself. So for example, at first, you were you had I think your parents maybe expected you to act more adult or more grown than you actually were. And I think in an effort to stand up for yourself, you could have been hyper independent, or maybe even very angry in the way that you would speak to your parents or to other people, because you were trying, it's like you were being very aggressive with how you would set your boundaries because you didn't know how to do it in a way that was just assertive. Does that make sense? Because with this Nine of Pentacles and Queen of Wands, I do think that there is a hyper independence here. And I mean hyper independence is how I'm sensing it. I feel like you kind of go it alone. And I don't even know if this seems like a collective where you're not very connected to yourself. I don't think you really have sat with yourself enough to be able to identify where your wounds are. But at the same time, I think you take yourself very seriously, especially when it comes to your interactions with others. I don't think you let people walk all over you. and you don't let people, like, okay, this is what this reminds me of. It reminds me of like the bully, like the stereotypical bully who is mean to other people, and oftentimes it's because they feel insecure or they are being bullied in another setting. That's kind of the vibe that I get here. And I think that you had to really like defend yourself, take care of yourself from a young age, and that could have bled into your adult life. I honestly think that you have a difficult time with this light attribute, surrendering your power of choice to the divine with complete trust. I think you have a difficult time doing that. I don't think you want to feel like your fate is in somebody else's hands. I feel like you want to have control of your own life because when you were young, that sense of safety and security wasn't there. But I also feel like you also care a lot about other people. I think you've been hurt in the past, and so part of you just wants to spread love and light and joy wherever you go. I think you want to empower people, and people probably see you as really confident, but at the same time, this is just your shadow self. So I feel like I'm gonna get your conscious self now and put it like on top and see what more information we can get there. So for your for your like awake self, your day-to-day self, we have the divine child. The light attribute is innocence, purity, and redemption, suggests the special connection with the divine. Your shadow is an inability to defend oneself against negative forces. I don't know if you're like a spiritual person or religious or something, because we have such powerful energies for like the connection to the divine. These are all upside down. I was like, why did they all come out in reverse? We have the Ace of Cups here, and we have the Queen of Cups. Okay. Well, Queen of Cups kind of confirms, and Ace of Cups confirms what I just said about the spiritual stuff. Yeah, you're definitely like, I would not be surprised. I feel like you probably are very spiritual or very religious. I think you've learned that there is something out there in the universe that is protecting you, that's guiding you, that's watching over you. And I think that I feel like you maybe have been doing intentional healing work now. And maybe that's what this advocate is about, because I wasn't going to take 2 cards for your shadow. I just felt called to take them, so I took them both, and I didn't know what they were. But I wonder if, especially because the advocate is facing the slave, I wonder if spirit is basically is trying to tell me, or I guess your higher self is trying to tell me, like, yeah, we have these wounds, but we're working on it, intentionally working on it. And with this divine child here as like your awake self, I don't know how else to say it, like your awake self, basically who you are, like your day-to-day existence, like your energy at the time that you're watching this. To have the divine child makes me feel like you have been doing intentional healing, especially inner child healing. I think you're recognizing that ultimately, regardless of the trauma and pain you've experienced, you have always, 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 always been a spirit that is inherently good, inherently loving, and that you deserve good things, And I think with this Queen of Cups facing the Ace of Cups, you have been, I think, desiring to bring in more emotional abundance into your life, because I think that you've really learned from a young age how to nail down financial security and like physical security, especially in terms of material items. But I think that the thing that you've been missing is emotional security, love, friendship, companionship. And with the Queen of Cups here facing the Ace, it's like I feel like you feel like you're ready to share your love with someone else and to receive love. But I think one thing that's important at this phase in your life, though, is that you learn how to give it back to yourself. And in some ways, the Queen of Cups is facing the divine child. So I feel like a lot of what you're doing right now is about giving love to yourself, making sure that your cup is filled before you're filling everybody else's, because especially emotionally, and doing so by your own choice. Because I think in the past, you were forced to be independent. But now you're recognizing that independence isn't necessarily a bad thing, but when you're forced into that position is when it kind of gets difficult. Because as a child, there's no reason why you should feel like you have to be at the 9 of Pentacles. Like, what? No, you're a kid. But that's a wound that you have. And with this shadow and inability to defend oneself against negative forces, I think that shadow still is true, because I think that it kind of reminds me of we were talking about earlier. but you're definitely working on it. I think you've healed a lot, and you've been spending a lot more time with yourself and seeing what you have to tell yourself, if that makes sense. Like seeing what your body, mind, heart, spirit will tell you when you are in a quiet, still place. It's possible too that you could have just given birth to a child. That's highly likely. But if not, then that's not for you. And if that's not the case, you could also, with this Ace of Cups, there could be a new relationship or friendship that you are really invested in at this time. I think you're just ready to be open to love and to new connections. And let's see your higher self now. So for your higher self, we have the Liberator. The light attribute is freeing yourself and others from outmoded beliefs, releasing negative thought patterns. The shadow, well, I'm not even going to read the shadow because higher selves don't really have shadows. But, and then we have the Lovers, iconic. So that's Gemini. And we have the King of Wands. Wow. You know what? Immediately, this makes me feel like this could have something to do with your masculine and feminine energy. Actually, absolutely, I think this has a lot to do with that. Because as a child, I think you were forced to be in your masculine energy more than your feminine. And what that looked like was you having to constantly like go out and like I don't think you felt safe enough to just sit back and receive. You didn't feel safe enough to be taken care of. And I think it's because the people around you made it clear that they weren't going to take care of you in the way that you needed. You were forced to take care of yourself and go out into the world and like be your own parent, essentially. You were your own caretaker, which I guess you could say is feminine energy, but this makes me feel like you were desiring somebody to nurture you and to take care of you and to kind of relieve this desire you have, or this need that you feel to be hyper independent. You wanted companionship. You wanted someone to stand up for you and to teach you that you are lovable. But I think that it felt impossible when you were younger. And with the Lovers, I think that what your higher self is trying to show you is like, your higher self, first of all, it's within you, right? And it is an unconditionally loving, completely beautiful spirit that lives within you. And with the Lovers, and then the King of Wands and the Queen of Wands, I feel like your higher self is trying to say, the work that you're doing is, it's kind of like you're conjoining all parts of yourself so that you can actually live a life that is more complete and more whole. And it's funny because the fire element is associated with spirit. I mean, so is water. I guess all of them are in their own way, but fire is very creative and spiritual. And with the Lovers, it just makes me feel like this is about bringing those parts of yourself that have been separated into a union and seeing what you can learn from those parts and what you can release from other parts. I think connecting with your higher self will also help you to release these shadows that have been making you feel like you can't rely on people. Because with the light attribute, freeing yourself and others from outmoded beliefs, your higher self simply wants you to live your best life, basically. And to release anything you've learned in the past that didn't assist you, that wasn't helpful, that kept you stuck in cycles of fear. And there's no blame here, you know what I mean? Like, as a child, you're just doing the best that you can with the resources that you have to feel safe and secure. But your higher self wants you to know that you can release these patterns and be okay. You know what I mean? So I want to get a card to see what is one thing your higher self is proud of you for when it comes to just the energy that you're in. Spirit or higher selves for pile 1. What is something you're proud of when it comes to this collective? What is something this collective has been doing well? 5 of Swords. And then what is something they can improve on? What is something they should improve on? What is something... Okay. 10 of Wands. Okay. Wow, back of the deck is 7 of Wands. That's interesting because in the beginning I was talking... You can't even see it. I was talking about how there's something here about your attempts to defend yourself and how sometimes you don't know how to set boundaries. Like, I think it might be really difficult for you to say, like, let's say somebody's talking to you crazy and you don't know how to just say, like, hey, please don't speak to me that way. I don't like that. you know, you maybe that's hard for you to say, so instead you might cuss them out, or you might maybe get physically aggressive, you might be manipulative, maybe your ego gets in the way and makes you feel like oh my gosh, yeah, Five of Swords. I was looking at this Five of Swords and I was like, wait, I'm kind of describing this card, but I was talking about this one too. Yeah, it's like you maybe have found in the past that it was really hard for you to set boundaries and stand up for yourself in a way that is healthy and that honors your truest intentions, you know? I think that you felt like you had to be more aggressive or more hostile because if you weren't, then you wouldn't be heard, so to speak, which is something you could have learned in your youth. And with the Five of Swords, as something your higher self is proud of you for, your higher self is basically saying you have been really being intentional with how you speak to others and how you engage in the like power plays around you. You could still be young or still be in a situation where you're where there are just people around you who are kind of nasty and who maybe who haven't really looked inward and started healing yet. And so people maybe disagree with you a lot, and when they do that, they could use inflammatory language or try to piss you off on purpose. And I think you've been very intentional with your energy, especially because you had that Queen of Cups as your energy right now. You are way more intentional about who gets your energy and who doesn't. And you're so much more careful with what you're putting out there into the world. And your higher self is really proud of you for that. You've been really setting your ego aside in order to like preserve your relationships, but also to not stoop down to somebody else's level. And with the Ten of Wands is something you need to be more intentional about and work on, is like overworking yourself, right? Again, it's that hyper independence. It's not asking people for help. It's feeling like you have to do everything on your own, carry the burden all on your own, and that asking for help makes you somehow weak or less worthy of love and assistance. I feel like this could be a collective where your self-worth was associated with your productivity as a child or something like that. Or maybe you just had parents that weren't emotionally present, and so you just developed this very hyper independent nature. But your higher self wants you to know that it is okay to release this idea that you have to accomplish a shit ton of stuff in order to be lovable. And your higher self also wants you to work on this compulsive need to work constantly and to work really hard and to the point where you're burning out, because it's not helping you. It's not useful for your journey. But the work that you're still doing work though, and your higher self is really proud of you for that. And even me, like, I feel like with this Five of Swords, that is such a big accomplishment, because it's really easy to get caught up in the ego and say things we don't mean just to like win the argument, right? So higher selves of pile 1 with the Howlite. What advice do you have for this collective, higher selves? What advice do you have for this collective on their journey, especially when it comes to connecting with their higher selves, moving inward, listening to their inner guidance? What advice do you have for this collective? My faith has the power to turn trauma into healing, conflict into growth, and fear into love. Absolutely. I was kind of just saying that, you know, like, you're really, with that Five of Swords, like, you're being intentional in terms of who gets your energy, because you recognize that sometimes walking away from a situation or not stooping down to a lower level is the best thing that you can do. Like, I think you're learning that your trauma isn't something to run away from, it's something you can learn from. When I lean on certainty and faith, I change my mind about the world I see. Okay, this is going to be our last card. Oh, I love this. True healing occurs when I give myself permission to feel whatever feelings live below the triggers. This is something you, I think, would benefit from, like saying it out loud, writing it down, really sitting with this statement. I was just saying, like, don't run away from your trauma, lean into it, see what it has to teach you. Whenever you're feeling triggered, like with that Five of Swords, maybe that's what this Five of Swords is about. Maybe this situation is like, maybe there aren't people who are literally being inflammatory and trying to piss you off. Maybe they're just existing, right? But you're being triggered, and you've been leaning into that. With that Queen of Cups, I really do feel like you've been doing intentional healing work, and your higher self is like I feel so like excited for you. Like, I feel like your higher self is excited and very like proud of you for leaning into it instead of running away. Wow, that's actually really beautiful. I love this for you. Oh my goodness. And actually, howlite is a crystal that I typically use for like communication. I mean, I think that there's a lot of ways you could use it, but whenever I clear and set an intention, I usually set the intention to help me communicate my feelings and thoughts better. Especially if I'm about to go into a meditation and then journal or something, it really helps with that if you want a crystal for that. So, Pile one, thank you so much for being here and for watching this reading. This is so beautiful, and I'm so proud of you all for your journey and for the healing you've been doing. If this resonated, please let me know down in the comment section. I would love to hear how this resonated and also what other ideas you guys have for future readings. If you want to support me in any way, you are more than welcome to leave a tip in the Cashapp listed down below. You can also like, comment, or subscribe to my channel. And yeah, again, thank you so much for being here. It was an honor to do this reading for you, and I hope to see you again here soon. Bye! Hi there, Pile 2. If you chose this Hematite crystal, then this is going to be your reading. So before we begin, just want to say thank you so much for being here at this space. I hope that this reading resonates with you and provides you with some sort of guidance, clarity, and support, and love. So let's get into the reading. So the way that this is going to work is we're going to first start off by looking at your shadow self, then your energy at the time that you're finding this reading, and then your higher self. So let's see what comes through. So for your shadow, we have the Beggar. Never got this card in a reading. Wow. Okay. We have the light attribute as confronts empowerment at the level of physical survival, awakens the spiritual authority of humility, compassion, and self-esteem. The shadow is dependence on others to the exclusion of effort. We also have the Nine of Wands and the Hierophant. I saw this card in my head when I was shuffling. But I didn't know that it came out. That's weird. Okay, so the Hierophant is Taurus. That could be a significant sign. Actually, interesting that we have Taurus because Taurus is associated with the second house of like physical items, material possessions, income, that kind of thing. And it's ruled by Venus. And I almost wonder if, I mean, even like the archetype of the Beggar kind of gives me like second house vibes in some way. But okay, so what do we have here? But that's not really the Hierophant. I just wanted to say that because I thought it was interesting. Anyway, so your shadow self. All right. Well, the fact that we have the Hierophant here, which is a very spiritual card, makes me feel like the light attribute is more significant here than the shadow. But at the same time, the shadow is very screaming at me. I want to start with this Nine of Wands though, because the Nine of Wands talks about, okay. So for this collective, part of your shadow could be that you are very, very afraid of letting people into your life, like really getting close to people. And this could be talking about like physical items, like maybe you're afraid to ask for help or ask for money or things like that. But I kind of just feel like this is in general, especially with your emotions and your thoughts, like you're really scared to let people in. You're really scared. And you put up walls around yourself because you just don't want to let people in. But at the same time, I think you really, really, really desire connection, and you desire, like, you really want people to be in your life, but you are afraid of letting them in. And I'm not sure how aware of that you are. We're going to look at your current energy and we'll see more information there. But I think that you have, with the Hierophant here, there, like, awakens the spiritual authority of humility, compassion, and self-esteem. And I do feel like one important lesson that you will be learning throughout this lifetime, and I'm not sure how much you've learned of it yet, but we'll see, is you're learning that you absolutely are deserving of connection, right? Like you're deserving of that. You're deserving of assistance, of help. It's okay to ask people for assistance and to receive that. And, the Hierophant also talks about social structures, religion, in some ways even like the law and government, because it's like it talks about like the old traditional systems, conventional systems we have put in place. And I wonder Oh, okay, this is a very specific, very, very, very specific message. And if it's not for you, please just leave it. But for some of you, you could be adopted, and that could be something that has caused a lot of trauma for you, especially if like you were in and out of the foster care system a lot. And there could be something with the church as well, with religion. There could be religious trauma here. I wonder if it just someone or some structure, some authority made you feel like it was wrong to ask for help, made you feel like you're asking for too much. And so it really diminished your self-esteem and made you feel like you had to shrink yourself as small as possible and ask for as little as possible, because that's the best way to receive, is by not asking, is kind of the mentality here. It's like, even this image, like this person's hiding their face, the Nine of Wands, the person is really defensive, and I feel like you felt very small and very insignificant amidst the greater structures in your life. You could have also had a parent, another very specific message, like a parent who was or is incarcerated and or was separated from you for some reason, but prison/jail seems like was what came through specifically. Like maybe you asked, I feel like you really wanted to connect with people, but you didn't have the space to do that. And for some of you, I feel like, actually, honestly, for a lot of you, I feel like in your youth, you were prevented from connecting with a parent or guardian figure or siblings or something like that because of like some system in place. So that could be like the carceral system. It could be the foster care system. And I think because of that, you internalize feelings that you're not worthy and that you can't, like, I don't even feel like the shadow is really the thing here. I feel like you run away from, no, I think you latch onto people quickly, but at the same time, you really don't let people in. It's a very interesting energy. I just feel like you probably feel misunderstood, very misunderstood. And I think it's because you desire so much love, but you feel like you don't have it. Or at least your shadow does. Let's look at your conscious self, because maybe your conscious self has a lot of love in their life. Maybe you feel like you're in a great place in your life, but the shadow is still here, which means it's something you haven't shed light on yet. And the fact that they're hiding, and this is like so defensive, it makes me feel like this is something that you're really afraid to delve deeper into. Probably because there's a lot of trauma attached to this. You could have also like been like rejected by a church or by something. Like rejection seems significant. Like, and maybe, okay, so for some of you, like because you were rejected by like a person, a group, like what, okay, so for example, I'll give an example. Maybe because of like a certain action you took, or because of who you are, whatever, you were rejected by like a religion or a church in your area when you were young, or maybe your parents disowned you, or maybe you were placed in the foster care system from a young age. Like there was something here where like you felt rejected by people or places that were supposed to welcome you and love you. And I think because of that, you either run away from connection at all costs and don't want to get close to people because you're scared to get hurt, or you go out and you look for love everywhere. Like you really look, and maybe the reason why this person's hiding is because you aren't aware that this is the energy your shadow is in. You might just think that you want love, you want friendship, you want romantic relationships, but I think deep down what you want is for somebody to validate the fact that you are worthy and deserving. And let me tell you something, I'll validate it for you right now. You're absolutely deserving, you're absolutely worthy of love. You don't have to change yourself or like ignore your needs to make someone love you, you know? My goodness, okay, sorry, but like my heart, okay. So for your current energy, we have the Destroyer, releasing what is potentially destructive, preparing for new life. The shadow is intoxication with destructive power, destroying others' dreams or potential. So like the dreams of others. We also have the Fool. Holy shit. We have Aquarius with the Fool. And we have the Six of Wands. Purr! I love to see it. Oh my goodness. I love this collective. Oh my goodness. Good for you guys. Okay, so what we have here, You are, oh my goodness, in such a transformative time in your life. Are you moving or something? Some of you could be moving, you could be graduating, getting a new job. Like, there's some big shift that's happening here, and you really worked your ass off for it, let me tell you that. And it could be like literally worked your ass off, like you worked your ass off for a degree, or, you know, you worked really hard to save money so you could buy a new house or something like that. That's very possible, but honestly, the most impressive thing with this collective is the fact that you really have learned. Like, remember earlier when I said I wasn't sure how much of this shadow you're aware of? I think you were made aware of it at some point, and you've been working on it, either intentionally or unintentionally, but you've been working on it and you've been healing because you have learned that it's okay to take a leap of faith. It's okay to just see where life takes you and to make decisions in your highest good, and just to like to see where life goes, you know? Because with the Fool, this talks about like a complete new beginning, just completely jumping off the cliff and seeing where you land, seeing where life takes you, trusting the universe, trusting spirit, and believing that no matter what comes up into your life, you can handle it and you will come out stronger and more, and having grown more, and just being more excited and more prepared for, you know, what's next, you know what I mean? And with the Six of Wands, this tells me that whatever change you've been making, it's something that you should be celebrating yourself for, but I also feel like people have been celebrating you. This could also simply be less about the new beginning and more about what you've left. Because maybe there was a situation, like you could have been in a toxic relationship or in some sort of maybe you left a church for some. You could have left some sort of like system that you're a part of, some like organization or something that was really draining you. Not that all churches are draining. I just feel like for this collective, I feel like this collective has ties to religion in particular, but in a way that really harmed them and caused pain and trauma. But you have really decided that there's no point staying where you're not welcome. There's no point staying where you're being drained and where you have to beg for affection, beg for love, beg for attention. You're over that. You're so over it, period. I love that for you. You really are just like, bro, who cares? And I wonder with this little Fool, the dog, I feel significant today. You could have a dog or a pet of some sort, or like some sort of like item or something that brings you a lot of comfort and you like take it everywhere with you, like a lucky charm, maybe a very specific crystal, or like a lucky bracelet or something like that, that just kind of reminds you like that makes you feel like you're always supported, you always have someone or something with you. But yeah, you've just, your energy right now is transformative. You're in a really big change. And I think this is something that you're aware of. Sometimes with the transformations in our life, we only see them when looking back. But I feel like this transformation, you know is happening. Like you feel it. Like it's a really big change. Like you're literally moving, or you literally just got out of a bad relationship, you know, something like that. And people are really happy for you with the Six of Wands. They see you like succeeding, they see that you're victorious, and they are so happy for you. They're so proud. They really can see that you've grown a lot and that you were in a really tough situation and you made it out, you know, whole. Well, like not even whole, it's not the word I want to use. Like you came out stronger and more confident and more assured in yourself. And that's amazing. You feel like you're on the right track. You feel like there's weight that's been lifted off your shoulders. Like you finally got out of that really, like there was a situation that was like bubbling, that was not good. You felt like you were boiling alive, and now you're out and it's fresh air and it's cool and it's like, it feels lightweight. It feels like I feel energized as I'm saying this, like, and I usually am not this energized during my readings. Like I feel like you're ready to take on the world. Oh my goodness, I love this for you so much. You don't even understand. Like, oh my gosh. Okay, let's look at your higher self. You guys got 4 cards. The Two of Swords is here somewhere, and I'm not sure if I'm going to take it. I took it because I felt called to, but I don't know what the other 3 cards are, so we'll see. But we have the Eternal Child for your, what is it? Your higher self. The light attribute is determination to remain young in body, mind, and spirit, ability to see things with fresh eyes. We also have for the, well, I'm not reading the shadow because it's the higher self, lol. Like what shadow could there be? Okay, so We also have the Two of Swords. Yeah, there it is. Wait, I'm going to put that last because I don't know if I'm going to take it. We also have the Ace of Wands. Okay, love. We have the Hermit, so Virgo could be significant. We have Justice with Libra, and then the Two of Swords. Okay, I am taking this then, because, oh, look at those mirroring numbers. That's interesting. We also have 2 9s here. But okay. Wow. Holy. Okay. Yeah, your higher self basically wants to tell you, the one thing that I feel very, very called to say is that whenever you're sitting there, like when you've been in this funk or this period of like, oof, like I don't know if I'm on the right path, I don't know if I'm doing things right, I feel stuck, I feel like I don't know what's next. Whenever you get those moments of clarity, or like whenever you just suddenly get this burst of inspiration, or things start making sense, things start adding up, you start realizing what path to take, you start realizing how to bring balance into your life, or things from the past start making sense, that's your higher self. Because your higher self really is, like, at least at this point in your life, is here to show you how to restore the balance in your life and move forward in a way that keeps you level-headed. Because with this ability to see things with fresh eyes and then seeing what energy you're in right now, the first thing I will say is I feel like you're very in alignment with your higher self. That's one thing I can sense. I really feel that way. You're really doing a great job, like a wonderful job. And your higher self is very proud of you. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for like the later portion of this reading, but okay. Your higher self is very free and youthful. And let me say, your higher self is not some like external spirit thing that like is outside of you. Your higher self is inside of you. It's basically another word for your spirit, or for your like your conscious, like the part of you that is spirit, like that's literally connected with spirit, you know what I mean? Like your higher self is made up of the same stuff as like your spirit guides, if that makes sense. It lives within you. And I feel like with this Hermit and the Justice card, especially back to back, your higher self wants you to know that, first of all, you don't have to go out and, like, when people treat you poorly, I feel so called to say this, when people treat you poorly, you do not have to get your hands dirty with revenge, okay? Your higher self understands that, like, a revenge is just, it's petty and there's no need for it, and that the best revenge is just healing and living your best life. But I feel like, and this could even be your spirit guides coming through with this message, but like I feel like people who screw you over are going to get what they deserve. You know what I mean? You don't have to get your hands dirty. I don't know who that's for, especially if you were in a toxic relationship or something, or you felt like you really were just completely screwed over by someone or something. That person or thing is going to get exactly what they put out. Anyway, so yeah, and also you can call on your higher self when it comes to your shadow work as well. With this Hermit here, I think that you maybe, like, the past could haunt you a lot. I think you're now in an energy where you're more willing to look forward and take a leap of faith, but I think that there's so much you can learn from moving inward with this collective. I mean, with every collective, of course, but with you specifically, your wounds are very... like when I was trying to explain it, I felt like it was convoluted. Like I felt like it was very multifaceted. And I think your higher self wants you to move inward and see what you can gain from facing those shadows and seeing what they have to tell you. And it might not make sense at first when you do this kind of work. You might be confused. You might not understand what you're feeling, but that's okay. It's going to get clearer as you continue doing this work. And I think one thing that would really benefit you is trying to find a good balance between your mind and your heart. With Justice and the Two of Swords, you might sometimes find yourself in situations where you feel like there's nothing you can do. And I think that comes back to that Beggar shadow card. I think your self-esteem, I'm surprised you don't have the Magician here, but your self-esteem could sometimes get like really low, and you might not trust that you have the ability to like literally make choices, and you feel like you have to maybe get somebody else's permission first, or check in with this other person and see what they think. But you have the ability to make choices for yourself. You're a very intelligent person, and your heart is also very big. Like, I think you have a lot of love in your heart. It's just you're not sure where to place it. And with your thoughts, you're very intelligent. It's just that your low self-esteem can sometimes get in the way of making choices that are good for you. And your higher self wants you to know that you can find a balance between the two. When your mind is running rampant and you don't know what, like, your thoughts are just racing, get it out. Like, journal it out, say it out loud, somehow get those thoughts out of your head and articulate them. And then check in with your emotions. Like, how are you feeling? Like, maybe mentally, like, you might be the kind of collective or people where emotionally you're like, dang, I really want a partner. Like, I really want a partner. I want to fall in love. I want to be taken care of and be able to love somebody. But your mind is like, no, but remember what happened when we were younger? Remember what happened with so and so? We shouldn't get into a relationship. We're going to get hurt. But your heart is saying one thing and your mind is saying another. You know what I mean? But it's so, like, both are so strong that it makes you feel stuck and it makes you feel powerless. Because sometimes our heart will override our thoughts or vice versa. But for you, I think it can get kind of like this stalemate situation. And your higher self is like, yo, there's a beautiful balance you can find here. I also think it's interesting we have justice in general, because I was talking about like legal systems and the church, and to have justice is interesting. Anyway, but okay, so with this Ace of Wands too, I mean, this just reminds me of the determination to remain young in body, mind, and spirit. There's so much beautiful, untapped potential within you that resides within your spirit. Your spirit wants to feel so free and so creative and passionate. And I think one beautiful way to allow your spirit to shine through, to connect you with your higher self, is to continue making choices like the Fool and the Six of Wands. Continue doing things that make you feel good, that build your confidence. Also, solar plexus chakra healing would be very beneficial for this collective. But what am I saying? Oh, Dawn, I forgot. Oh, yes. Doing things that help you build your confidence, that are really fun and exciting, especially if you like haven't planned it out that well, would be beneficial. Like, I think your spirit, like, you know what you should do? Here's some advice. One thing I like to do sometimes is I like to go to like downtown, anywhere, like a city downtown, and just like have some money on you, get some coffee, whatever, and just walk into different stores and see what you're drawn to, you know, and try to spice it up. Like, don't just go to like the mall. And if you go to the mall, check out the stores that you feel drawn to but you never had a chance to check out, and just see what you like, especially stores that have like I don't know where you live, but where I live, we have stores like Spencer's, Hot Topic, and like random gift shops and shit that have like just random things you could buy, and see what you're drawn to. Just see where it takes you, because I think your higher self wants you to just like trust yourself, like go out and buy things that make sense to you, that feel good to you, even if it's like weird to somebody else, you know what I mean? But okay, I need to drink some tea. This is intense pile. I love your energy, by the way, like a lot. This is just like, oh my goodness. Okay, so now let's get one card to see one thing your higher self is proud of you for, and one thing that your higher self feels like you should improve on. So what is something this collective has been doing well? This pile 2, what have they been doing well? What is their higher self proud of them for? Higher self, okay. We have the 2 of Cups. Interesting. And then what is something they could improve on? What is something this collective could improve on? We have the 5 of Pentacles. Okay. So we have the 3 of Swords in the back of the deck. So, okay. Yeah, I think these actually go together, and this goes with it, because this reminds me of what I was saying earlier about how your shadow seems convoluted and kind of like almost contradictory. Like, it's like your shadow is like, you have these certain kinds of fears, but at the same time you have other fears that counter, like it's like counteracting one another, and it's very multi-layered, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I just think it makes it even more important for you to be patient with yourself and to do things like journaling, meditation, checking in with yourself, because it might take you a while before you feel like you've gotten to the root of the issue, because maybe there's multiple roots, you know? I mean, it is. I just saw like a tree in my mind. Like, you're like the tree, And in the roots, you have all of these different roots. Some of them are healthy and some of them are rotting. And you might cut one of the rotten roots out or something, and you're like, oh, but why is the tree still dying? Well, because there's other rotting roots, and you have to do the digging and see where they are to actually remove them. I don't know why. That's whatever. Okay. But with the Two of Cups as something your higher self is proud of you for, how I'm taking this is maybe you're feeling a lot more open to love and more open to connecting with people emotionally. I'm not sure if you've done it yet. Like, I don't know if, well, it's possible. Maybe that Fool card earlier was you getting into a relationship or you putting yourself out there. But maybe it's not. Maybe the Fool was about something else, and this Two of Cups is simply about you finally feeling more open to emotional connections, finally feeling like you can find somebody who will give you everything and more, and you can give them everything and more, and you both will receive, a beautiful mutually flowing connection. I almost wonder if you didn't believe that this kind of connection could exist for you, but now you do. And now it's like you're starting, I just feel like you're finally starting to really see your self-worth and confidence and understand that, like, you're not an unlovable person. There are people who you're going to meet that are literally going to fill you with so much love, you're not going to know what to do with it. Like, you're going to feel like, I just got like a you know how, like, sometimes you look back at your past and you're like, damn, like, I was so stupid. I can't believe I was so stressed about that. Like, life is so good now. I feel like you'll be having one of those moments. And, but I giggled to myself because, like, same. But also, there's nothing wrong with feeling like you're never going to find someone like that. It's a common thing to feel, especially when you're living with a lot of trauma. But it's not true is the thing. You will find somebody, multiple people, friends, lovers, etc., that will love you so dearly, and it'll be beautiful. And your higher self is so proud of you for finally feeling like, for either putting yourself out there and talking to people and building connections, or for simply believing that it can be yours. And with this Five of Pentacles, one thing that your higher self wants you to work on, this is going to depend for oh my god, we have 2 5s and 2 2s. So for some of you, this is talking about, like, your literal finances and your sense of security. This reminds me of the root chakra. Like, maybe for some of you, you have this, like, maybe a scarcity mindset even, where you feel like you don't have enough, you can never have enough, you don't deserve enough money, resources, whatever. And you have this mindset of lack, which is, like, it's kind of a tricky thing to talk about because, like, it's hard not to have a mindset of lack if you've experienced financial insecurity for a long time, It's really hard to trust that money can be yours in any quantity that you want if you've never been shown that in the material world, But, and for others, I think this Five of Pentacles is talking about this feeling of, like, missing somebody, longing for somebody, feeling like you are out in the cold, alone, you don't have connections, like, and that's why I felt like they're convoluted, and I think it's connected with this Three of Swords, because it's like, on the one hand, your higher self is saying, like, yes, like, we're so, oh my god, I just fell off, and the Four of Swords is underneath. That's interesting. But I feel like on the one hand, your higher self is being like, oh my gosh, like, you're doing so amazing in terms of like coming back to yourself and believing that you are deserving of love and looking for love that's mutually flowing instead of looking for connections that are where you're giving so much more than you're receiving, you know what I mean? But with this Five of Pentacles, I think it's almost like your higher self is saying you're on the right path to unlearning this Five of Pentacles is kind of how I'm taking it, because at the root of it is this pain, the Three of Swords. You have a lot of grief here, a lot of pain, and a lot of sadness around your sense of, like, committed relationships. This could be romantic or platonic or your family. I think your family is highly significant in this collective too, especially because I do feel like there's something with, like, the foster care system in this collective, maybe just for a few of you, but it's a strong feeling. I keep coming back to it. But I think that you still have this feeling of, like, oh, I don't have, like, my people. I don't have my friend group. I don't have my family. Like, you feel like you don't have that, like a circle that's, like, your circle, And your higher self wants you to work on that because but I think it's going to differ for all of you, because for some of you, maybe you really don't. Maybe you really don't have a friend group that you can rely on. Maybe you really don't have family that loves you, that's supportive, and that cares about you, you know? And I'm not going to say like, oh, you need to like some people really just don't have that, you know? But your higher self is still proud of you for making an effort to put yourself out there anyway. And the fact that this Four of Swords was underneath and this card fell off, this makes me feel like one thing that could be really helpful for you is to not push yourself too hard when it comes to this, to like your healing and stuff, to allow yourself to move slowly and rest when you need to. Your mental health could also be very significant. Actually, that makes so much sense. That makes so much sense because like one thing with depression, for example, is like you, and even like anxiety and probably other mental health disorders as well, is like you have this feeling of like deep loneliness and like you're all alone, but at the same time you have no energy to put yourself out there and make friends. And even if you do make friends, you just feel like they don't care and they don't understand and things like that. Okay, so let's finish off with some advice. So higher selves. Okay, we already got this card. I always trust the direction of the universe and know I'm being guided. Ooh, hell yeah. What other advice do you have for this collective? Higher selves of pile 2. What advice do you have for pile 2? The universe works fast when I'm having fun. I was just saying, like, you guys should totally go out and, like, just do random shit that is fun for you. But don't plan it. Because I think your spirit is going to really come through and you're going to feel so connected and so in alignment if you just, like, dress cute, wear an outfit that you want to wear. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. Whatever you want, whatever feels good to you. And, like, just go out somewhere where there's like a bunch of shops, or maybe go get a meal or something and just see how you feel and just like have fun, you know? But don't plan it super down to a T, because I think part of the fun will be like the improv, you know? Let's get another piece of advice for this collective from their higher selves. What other advice? Oh, we have 2 cards, so we'll take them both. I find deeper meaning and personal growth amid the discomfort. And we have, there's nothing sexier than my authentic truth. That's so true. Oh, I'm going to show you this card, back of the deck. Pile 1 got it as well, and it's my favorite, one of my favorites. True healing occurs when I give myself permission to feel whatever feelings live below the triggers. Whew. Okay, pile 2. Thank you so much for being here and allowing me to tap into your energy and give you this reading. If this resonated, I would love to hear how it did down below. Please remember that you have free will, and if any of these messages didn't sound like they were for you, then it's absolutely okay to just let it fly. So thank you again for being here, and I hope to see you again here on this channel soon. If you would like to support me, you can like, comment, or subscribe to my channel. I would also love if you could send a tip to my Cashapp that's listed in the description bar, but you don't have to. And yeah, have a wonderful day or night whenever you're watching, and that is all I have to say. Bye. Hi there, pile 3. If you chose this green Aventurine crystal, then this is going to be your reading. Before I forget, when I was shuffling these cards, I saw the Magician in my mind's eye. But before that, I got this feeling of like heavy protection. Like when I was shuffling the archetype, like these red cards in particular, I think I was pulling the card for your current energy, and I just got this like wave of like protective energy, which could be your higher self, but I also felt like spirit guides could be significant here, like you're very protected at this time. But yeah, okay, so let's get into your reading. So we're gonna first look at your shadow self and see what's coming through there. So for your shadow self, we have the Alchemist. The light attribute is transformation of base motives and goals into golden wisdom. The shadow is misuse of the power and knowledge that come through spiritual practice. We also have the 6 of Cups and Death. So this is Scorpio, if that is significant to you in any way. Alrighty, pile 3's shadow self. So there is, okay, actually, wow. Yeah, there is a big transformational energy here with this card and this card. But with the 6 of Cups, this card is all about nostalgia, right? It's about like the childhood or like childlike innocence, kind of like going back into time and like reliving, not reliving, but like memories of the past. especially very sweet memories. And I wonder, like, so I just feel like this collective could have had like a really nice childhood, actually. Like, you could have had like this, or at least like the stereotypical, like, maybe suburbia, like you lived in the suburbs or something like that. Um, which doesn't necessarily mean you had a good childhood, but I feel like when you look back, you like, I could just imagine like you had, like, maybe you went on vacations with your family, you were sent to good schools, your parents were still together, you had siblings, you had fun, like maybe you didn't have money problems or something like that. I get this vibe that your childhood was like stereotypically good, but obviously this is your shadow self, which isn't necessarily just your childhood self, right? Or like childhood wounds, although it can make up a lot of that. Um, but I feel like your shadow, okay. So maybe part of the issue here then is that you might have this desire to like go back to the past and live life like how it used to be. Maybe you're growing up and you're realizing that life isn't always going to be as, oh, maybe you were really protected when you were young. Maybe your parents just really were like really good parents and really cared about you and made sure you were safe, and they wanted you to have fun, but they did so in ways that were helpful for you and that didn't put you in harm's way. Like, I think you miss that. Maybe there was somebody in your life passed away recently, like a parent of some sort. Um, and that could be what's triggering these feelings, these memories. But honestly, I feel like you just have a lot of nostalgia. Like, you look back at the past and you're like, damn, I wish I could go back. Like, things were so nice back then. And what your shadow wants ultimately is to create that sense of safety in your present day, right? But the thing is, you can't go back into the past. You can only live in this present moment. And maybe one thing you want to consider is seeing how you can change your current reality, your present day, to make it feel more safe, secure, fun, lighthearted. Maybe, you can't go back into the past, but you can take the lessons you learned from the past and implement them in your day to day. I think that's what this death is about. I think this death card is like, it feels like a gentle reminder in this reading. It's almost like a gentle reminder that, like, hey, you can't go back to that time period. We know you loved it, but you can't go back. But here's the thing, every phase in your life, it's going to be there and then it's going to go away. But that doesn't mean that you can't take anything with you. You get to decide which people you bring into the next stage in your life. You get to decide which lessons you bring with you, which values, belief systems. And if there are things from your past that just were beautiful, that you love, that you want to have in your day-to-day life now, find ways to replicate that. But not to the point where you are mimicking your past, where you are trying to live through your past. What you want to do instead is kind of evaluate how you felt in the past when you were younger. What was it about your past that was so nice? Was it the sense of safety? Was it the love in your family? Was it the financial security? Was it the nice innocent feeling of being a child and not having like bills to pay and stuff like that? What was it about your childhood that was so sweet and so innocent? And how can you bring that feeling back to yourself now? How can you give that back to yourself, but in a way that actually reflects who you are now? Because it's important, I feel like it's very important that you take into consideration the way that you've grown, you take into consideration the stage in your life that you're at, because you can't literally recreate your past into your present. Like, that's not going to happen. But you can give yourself that same feeling of like childlike innocence and wonder and curiosity that you had when you were young. So now let's look at your current energy to see what's going on there. So for that, we have the athlete. The light attributes are dedication to transcending physical limits, including handicaps, development of personal willpower and strength of spirit. The shadow is misuse of athletic ability for selfish ends, false sense of invulnerability and entitlement. Alrighty. We also have the moon with Pisces. A lot of watery energy here. And then the 10 of Wands. Ooh, all right. Okay. Yeah, I can see why you want to go back to that past where things were easier and like you didn't have responsibilities and things like that. You know what? You could very well literally be an athlete, but honestly, a student athlete in particular feels significant here. Or maybe you're trying or something here with like your athletics could be really important toward your progress. Maybe you want to play professional sports, or you're wanting to get like a scholarship based off of your athletics, something like that. Because with this 10 of Wands, you are pushing yourself so hard right now, and honestly not in a good way. Like, and I think it's expected of you as this athlete person. And if you're not an athlete, that's okay, but honestly I feel like you probably are. I feel like there's something here in your life. Okay, honestly I think you're actually an athlete. I think you play sports and it's a big part of your life, and if that doesn't sound like you, this might not be a reading. But if this beginning part resonated, you can still watch this and see what spirit led you here for. Like, there still can be a message for you here. But I feel like the sport that you play, or your presence on the team that you're on, whatever it is, it places a lot of pressure on you because you're expected to push yourself beyond belief. You're expected to like be the star. You're expected to bring in the scholarship to balance schoolwork and athletics. You're expected to do all these things. And so people don't question it when you are stressed out, when you're burnt out, when your mental health is falling apart, when your body is exhausted. They don't question it. They don't tell you to take a break because they expect you to be able to handle it because you're the athlete. It's like, well, this reminds me of like, oh my God, this is gonna piss me off. I'm like, sometimes when people are like, if someone's like, oh, I'm just having like a really hard month, like this month is really stressing me out, I feel really exhausted. And there's always that one person who's like, well, it could be worse. Well, this isn't happening to you. There are people who are starving in the world. They say things like that. They just completely invalidate the person's experiences, the person's feelings. I feel like that could be what's happening for you. But maybe to the point where it's almost you could have internalized this. Like, maybe you've internalized this feeling of like, oh, I had such a good childhood. I was given everything. This is the least I can do. I need to suck it up. I need to be what my parents wanted me to be because they worked so hard to make sure I had a good, safe childhood, that kind of thing. But it's really, I think you don't actually know what you're doing. Like, I feel like you feel disconnected from yourself right now. You feel very disconnected from your spirit, from your intuition. And it's because you're currently on this really long, stressful journey. You're so burdened, you're so stressed out because you're doing things that other people want you to do. You're not doing it for you, you're doing it for them. I mean, part of it could be for you as well, but I think that's something that you've internalized. And I'm not saying like stop playing sports, like that's not what I'm saying. I just think that maybe you want to ask yourself, do you need a break? Do you want to take this season off? Do you actually want to play professional sports? Do you actually want to go to college and be a college athlete? Like, is this what you want? Because if it's not, then you need to rethink the path that you're on. Because what this makes me feel like with this moon is you might not know what's lying ahead of you. Your head is facing down. You're so burdened and so stressed, and you're so focused on how people are perceiving you and how many people are proud of you, how many people like you and like the work that you're doing, that it's pulled you away from your own desires, from your own boundaries, your own needs. You're so focused on whether they're going to be happy with what you're doing that you're forgetting that you can do things for yourself as well. And what's interesting is, like, I think that you actually have a lot of power. When I saw the Magician in my head, earlier when I was shuffling, I just feel like you could manifest things really easily. You have a lot of willpower and you're very strong. Maybe physically as well, you could be very strong. But I mean, like, you have strength of like, your spirit is very strong. You're a powerful person. You just feel like you're in the dark right now. You feel like you're just kind of slugging through life, doing things because people are wanting you to do it, and it seems like it's like you don't even have the space or the energy to ask yourself what you want to be doing because you're so burnt out. But you're successful is the interesting thing. I think that's why people don't question it, because they're like, well, they're an athlete, they're doing what they need to do, they're winning the games, they're getting they're on track to get into that school with the scholarship, whatever it is. And so people, they would rather you suffer. Well, not everybody, but I mean, in general, I think society expects us to suffer in order to achieve certain goals. And all of a sudden, the suffering is supposed to be worth it because you achieved X, Y, and Z. But is it really worth it? Is it worth it to you? I think that's something you need to be asking yourself. Let me take a sip of my tea. I think it's interesting we have two A's here as well, two A words. But let's see your, what was I saying? Your higher self. Oh, are you freaking kidding me? I should have looked at the cards. That's so funny. This is not, no. This is basically, in this deck, you can like create your own archetype, but I always forget to throw those cards away because I'm not going to create my own most likely. I apologize. Let's pull one now together. Okay, so how is pile 3's higher self being represented? How is pile 3's higher self being represented? Who is pile 3's higher self? Okay. We have the Father. The light attributes are talent for creating and supporting life, positive guiding light within a tribal unit. The shadow is dictatorial control, abuse of authority. Oh, I always forget, but ignore the shadow because this is your higher self. So the shadow is like irrelevant, you know? But let's look at the tarot cards now. This reminds me, like, especially this with the athlete reminds me of Troy Bolton and his dad in High School Musical. I think it's an interesting comparison because I do feel like you like sports and you like the sport that you play. It's just that I feel like you don't feel like you have the space to almost complain. You don't have the space to be like, oh, I don't want to do this right now, or oh, I'm too tired. You feel like if you say that, you're ungrateful or something and you're going to disappoint people. But okay. We also have the 5 of Swords. We have the 10 of Cups. And we have the Ace of Swords. Holy. All right. So, pile 3's higher self. Yeah, your higher self kind of in some ways reminds me of pile 2's higher self, but also very different. The part that's similar, are these in the frame? Question mark. Yeah, close enough. Good enough. The part that's similar is the air energy here with the Ace of Swords and the 5 of Swords. Your higher self will give you the information you need because the information's inside of you. Your higher self is just your spirit. You know what I mean? Your higher self knows you better than you realize. It knows everything about you. And when you're feeling like you're in that moon energy where you're not sure what's going on, you feel like only part of the situation is illuminated, you feel like you're hidden in the dark, you're unsure of which steps to take, that kind of confusion sometimes is intentional. Sometimes the universe wants you to be confused and purposefully hides information so you can learn to trust yourself and trust spirit. And also your higher self wants you to know that it's not just your spirit guides you can reach out to for assistance. It's not just specific deities or the universe in general. You can literally ask your higher self. Like you can ask out loud, but you can also sit in meditation and connect with your higher self. You can do it through journaling. Basically, your higher self is always there. Always there. And it's trying to give you clarity and information and new perspectives, new ideas. And I think, and all that your higher self wants for you, and I think that your higher self almost, like, I think this is a weird way to say it, and this is more of like a metaphor. It's not really literal. It's almost like your higher self sees you as like a baby, but especially your shadow self, because you're a unique pile. Whenever I do piles or readings like this where I talk about the shadow self, I've never had a pile before where I felt like the collective had like a quote good or like quote normal childhood, right? There's usually a lot of trauma that comes through. I'm not saying that you haven't experienced trauma. I'm not saying your childhood was perfect either, okay? I think it's interesting, though, that the energy that came through in this reading is that it seems like your childhood and your home life was like the typical home life, and it was, but in a good way. You know, you had like a decent childhood. But I think that there's clarity that can be found within you, and you can always tap into that. And that's okay. I was like, why was I talking about that? What I was gonna say about your higher self seeing you and your inner child as like a little baby and wanting to like nurture you, it's a metaphor. It's not like literal. But at the same time, in some ways it is literal, because your higher self is your spirit, and it is meant to guide you, because that's your connection to spirit at large, to everyone else, every other thing on this planet and in the universe. And I feel like to have the 10 of Cups like placed where it is in this reading, it's like your higher self wants you to know that the happy ending you're longing for, that you keep looking in the past for, you can create right now. And your higher self will guide you toward that. It wants you to have that. Your higher self doesn't want you to suffer. Your higher self doesn't want to lead you down the wrong path, and it won't. It wants you to create a life that makes you feel fulfilled and happy, filled with people who are loving and incredible. And you don't have to pick and choose. You don't have to neglect yourself for other people or neglect the world for yourself. Sometimes you got to step away from people, and sometimes you have to make sacrifices for people, you know? But ultimately, you shouldn't find yourself in a pattern of beating yourself down so you could make someone else happy. And with the Five of Swords, I want one more card to clarify, but can I get a card for that Five of Swords for the higher self? What's meant with that Five of Swords? It's like your higher self is guiding you toward, we have the Hierophant, which is Taurus. It's like your higher self is guiding you toward creating the life that, you know, that you've been looking in the past for. You can find that here. You can create that here. It's just that you have to trust that you can create it in your present day. You have to trust that the best moments in your life aren't the ones that are in your past. You know, you have to trust that there's good that's going to be coming through. And I understand now why you're living in the past. It's because your present day is kind of shitty. With all due respect, I think you see it that way too. I think you see it like you're stressed out all the time. You have no time for yourself. You have no time to do things that you truly want to do because you feel like you have to make everyone else around you happy. And to get the Hierophant, oh, 2 5s. But the Hierophant with the Five of Swords, I wonder if, I'm just going to say this. I'm not sure what's really going through my mind right now. This is really, so I think I'm going to let the message kind of come through, but there might be, your higher self might want you to connect more with your higher self. Okay, that's convoluted. Your higher self wants you to look inward, right? Connect with your higher self to gain information and clarity around your life so that you don't have to make decisions through like the most wounded, egotistical parts of you. Because the Five of Swords to me always reminds me of like people who are very wounded and scared, and so they try to beat other people down in order to feed their ego and make them feel better. And I don't really feel like that's who you are at all, actually. I just feel like there could be people around you who they might live through you almost. Maybe that's why I was thinking of Troy Bolton's dad, because I almost felt like Troy Bolton, his dad kind of lived through him in a way. It doesn't have to be your dad. I'm just saying that, like, maybe people around you, they're wanting good things for you. They're wanting you to do these, to push yourself so hard so that it's almost so that they can feel more proud of themselves. Like if it's your parents, for example, it's like, oh yeah, well, I created that child. Like that they're a product of me. Like, look at them. They're so successful. Or maybe your parents wanted to be a pro athlete or something and they never did, and they want you to achieve that so they can live through you. That might not be for all of you, but ultimately I do think that there is something like there are people around you, or maybe even you, who are just really operating out of the ego and out of fear. And your higher self wants you to connect to maybe start reading up on things like self-help, self-care books, philosophy, spirituality, religion, whatever suits your fancy, and gain other perspectives. Oh, for some of you too, like when you're reading, your higher self might really guide you towards certain books, or like certain paragraphs or sentences might feel like, oh my gosh, like a lightning bolt just went through your head. And I feel like that's kind of what this Ace of Swords is about too. Like, your higher self is going to come through to you and is trying to come through to you with information that'll really, really, really assist you. But it's important that you're open to that, and you pay attention as well, because this happy ending you're looking for, you absolutely can have it in your life. It's not, the best times are not over. They have not passed. So let's get a card to see what your higher selves are proud of you for. So what is one thing this collective is doing that you're really proud of them for? What are pile three's higher selves proud of pile 3 for? Okay. We have the King of Swords and the Five of Cups. What about something that this collective could improve on? What is something that this collective could improve on? The Hanged Man, Pisces. Alrighty. Okay, this makes a lot of sense. So for one thing your higher self is applauding you for, it's your ability to see, okay, well, this is going to be kind of a contradiction, but life is a contradiction. You can feel and experience contradicting things at once, and it is what it is. So, and this is going to kind of contradict what I said earlier about you feeling lost, because you are feeling lost. You're feeling like you're hit, like you're disconnected from yourself, honestly. But with the Five of Cups and the King of Swords, one thing your higher self is so proud of you for is your ability to see things actually, first of all, we have another 5, which is crazy, but I take it back. I was going to say, well, I'll still say it because it's what first came through. But I think your higher self is proud of you for being able to see things through a logical perspective and cut off people who aren't good for you. Because of this 5 of Cups, and maybe that's what okay, that makes sense. Okay, this is, I think, referring to your shadow self. Your higher self is proud of you for looking at your past. You know how when, you were feeling nostalgic, you were looking at the past being like, damn, I've lost all this now. I don't have this anymore. I don't have this carefree childhood anymore. I don't feel as safe and secure anymore. Don't feel as supported in the way that I need. And instead of letting that consume you and throw you into like make you feeling stuck, you've been transmuting it. That makes sense with the Alchemist. You have been aware of this, and I think you have been trying hard to bring yourself back into the present, but I think you've especially been doing so logically. You've been logically thinking like, okay, well, I'm grown up now. I'm not 10 years old anymore. I'm not 5 years old anymore. Like, I am X age, and this is my life now, and I'm not stuck. I'm not done with, like, my life isn't over type of thing. But I also feel like you've been, was it this collective and I was talking about mental health? I don't think so. I think it was pile 2. But I think if you found yourself in like kind of a rut and you've been feeling really lethargic and just sad and like really disappointed, your higher self is proud of you for pulling yourself out of that and doing things that help you feel like you're more on track with your life. Something here about like routines and schedules could be significant too. I feel like you've been trying hard to cut out what doesn't serve you, to release the feelings of disappointment and loss that you have over certain people or things in your life, so that you can step into a more independent and focused energy. And with the Hanged Man, one thing you need to improve on is what happened with that Moon card. Your guides then, I'm going to say it. I meant to say your higher self, but your guides probably too, want you to understand that, like I said, sometimes the universe purposefully keeps you confused, will purposefully put you in situations that are kind of like wacky, so that you can learn how to release control and trust yourself and trust spirit. Sometimes it's intentional. Sometimes people are just assholes and screw us over, and other times it's intentional, orchestrated by the universe so that you can grow and transform. And I think you're in a phase like that right now. With the Moon card being there and with the cards we got for your higher self, you are really in a situation where you feel like you're upside down, like, holy shit, I'm in this situation where I have to just constantly put out work and put so much effort into my sports, and I feel so tired all the time, all that kind of stuff. And Not saying you can't stand up for yourself. I'm not saying, and your higher self isn't saying that you're not allowed to stand your ground and set boundaries between you and the people around you. You absolutely can do that. But what your higher self wants you to work on is sort of making peace with the situations that you're in and accepting that maybe the right thing to do at this time is to surrender. So, and that's going to look different for all of you. For some of you, surrendering would mean that you are going to take the semester off. Maybe for others, surrendering looks like maybe staying in school but taking a break from the team that you're on. Maybe surrendering looks like just pushing it out and just continuing to work until the semester's over. Whatever it is, right? Surrendering looks different for all of you. But ultimately, the point is that you're not always going to have the answers. You're not always going to have perfect clarity. You can look for it. You can move inward, ask your guides, ask your higher self for clarity when it comes to these situations. But sometimes all you can do is just accept that things are shitty right now, and clarity will come in when it's meant to. Okay, so can I get some advice for this collective, from this collective's higher selves? We have, when I lean on certainty and faith, I change my mind about the world I see. What else? What other advice from pile 3's spirit guides? Oh my lord. You know what? Yeah, from their spirit guides. Let's just say spirit guides. I keep saying that. Through prayer and meditation, I create a ripple effect of peace in the world. What other messages for this collective from their spirit guides and their higher selves? I'm actually going to take this one. The more energy and intention I bring to my faith, the more fearless and free I am. Okay, so pile 3, that is your reading on messages from your higher self and maybe your spirit guides, because I kept saying spirit guides. So, yeah, thank you so much for watching this reading, and it was an honor to channel this message for you. And if it resonated and you would like to let me know down below, please do so. I would love to see, you know, what parts resonated with you and what parts didn't. And if you want to support me in any way, I would love if you could leave a like, a comment, or if you would subscribe to my channel. I also have a tipping option down below in the description bar where you can send a tip to my Cashapp. So yeah, again, thank you so much for being here, and I hope to see you again here soon. Bye!